Inside the Magic, show number 423 for May 12th, 2013. It is Sunday, May 12th, 2013. This is show 423 of Inside the Magic, and it's also Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to my mom, as well as all you moms out there. Of course, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti, and we do have another great show packed with plenty of Disney and theme park news and some surprises. Definitely a big week for surprises, and that's always a lot of fun. Before we get to all of that, I invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and plenty more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, anything else you want to send in, you can do so by writing to me at ricky@insidethemagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Walt Disney World offers to save you money all summer long to the fall are available now. You can travel between June 13th and September 28th and save up to 30% at select Walt Disney World Resort hotels. The free dining offer for Walt Disney World guests for most arrivals nights, September 2nd through September 25th. You're going to want to contact Magical Travel today for more information and the best availability by calling them at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive a free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And of course, thanks very much to all of our contributors to the show. One-time, monthly, recurring, or clicking through any of the affiliate links over on the website. It all supports Inside the Magic, and I give you a big thank you for all of it. And now, let's get started with a trip around the world. So, as I said, there were a lot of surprises this week, and I've got a lot of big news to share. Before we get into that, let me just do a little housekeeping here. I wanted to put in a mention that I think just today, or earlier today, maybe yesterday, we passed 20,000 likes on Facebook. So, thanks to everybody who's hopped over to our Facebook page and clicked the little like button to stay subscribed to all of our updates there. Meanwhile, a very close by, similar number over on Twitter. We just passed 21,000 followers there. So, thanks to everybody who's following us on both of those social media services, posting a lot of the same stuff on either or, so you can subscribe to either or both or all of the above. So yeah, thanks to everybody. That I think I made a quick mention at the end of last week's show, very at the tail end of the show, that I've also joined up on Vine, which is this little service, I think from the Twitter people, that lets you post just kind of small snippets of video, which is kind of fun for the parks. It's basically the equivalent of a tweet, but video. Of course, Inside the Magic is where you'll follow me on Vine as well. I don't use that quite as frequently, but whenever I'm in the parks, I'll try to post a video here and there. And I think I made a mention of this once before as well. I've been Snapchatting with some of you, sort of more of a personal, one-on-one way to communicate with a lot of you, really see who you are. Kind of fun to do that as well, and that's just my own personal name on there is just R Briganti. So if you want to send me a photo or something, go right ahead. Fun to interact with all of you. Anyway. So now let's get started with some news here, and the surprise that I've been alluding to is something that I'll be talking about much more in detail in just a little bit, but to put it in a mention right now at the top of the show of it is that Universal Orlando this week made the surprise announcement, finally sharing the details for their Wizarding World of Harry Potter expansion coming to Universal Studios Florida. That's right, it's not going to be in the Islands of Adventure theme park. It is being built in the former location of Jaws over at Universal Studios Florida. They released some concept art of what would be included there, and I am going to leave it just at that for now, so we can get through all of the other news first, and then I'll swing back around and we'll have much more in-depth look at what Universal is planning on what surely will be the most exciting thing to happen in a theme park next year. Now, so far in the show, you've been listening to music that you may immediately recognize as being from Disney Pixar's film Brave, and there's a good reason for that, and because just yesterday morning over at the Magic Kingdom, Merida, the girl star of Brave, is now officially, or became officially, the 11th Disney princess. She had her coronation ceremony in front of Cinderella Castle, along with the other 10 princesses were there in attendance. It actually kicked off just before 9:30 in the morning with a surprise performance by those two little girls made famous by the Ellen Show, Sophia, Grace, and Rosie. They did a little rap song in front of Cinderella Castle. Following that, beginning the official coronation ceremony, were Gabby Douglas, who is the Olympic gold medal winning gymnast, as well as her mother. Of course, it's Mother's Day weekend, and so those two were there to talk about sort of the relationship between moms, and of course that's a big focus of the film Brave as well. Following a short conversation between those two, the existing 10 Disney princesses showed up on stage, introduced individually, followed by Merida arriving on horseback to a Scottish procession, and then ultimately becoming a princess on stage with an appearance by, first ever appearance by her mom, Queen Eleanor. And this very well may be the only time that Queen Eleanor ever appears in the parks. Disney is really not sure about that. It's a very good possibility that it will be the only time, so it was really fun to see that. And then Merida did indeed get officially welcomed and become the 11th Disney princess. And now that I've described all of that to you, I actually want to take you there for the special moment. I'm not going to include the whole coronation ceremony because it was about 20 minutes long or so. You can already see that over on our YouTube channel. In fact, tens of thousands have already watched it over there. But here's just a little sample of the big moment when Merida showed up on stage and actually became Disney's 11th princess.
Across the realms and beyond, this day we rejoice. We do hereby declare and affirm that by virtue of her fiery spirit, independence, and her unwavering bravery, Merida is officially welcomed into the Disney Princess Royal Court. Joining on the celebration of her daughter is Queen Eleanor.
In you I see the best of our past and the best of our future. I'm proud of all that you are and all that I know you'll become. I'm proud of you, my daughter.
So it was certainly a morning filled with fun and excitement and lots of characters, but this whole notion of Merida becoming the 11th Disney princess, becoming part of the Disney princess line of merchandise from Disney Consumer Products, they were the ones who really put on this event. It's all, part of the merchandising thing, and there's been some controversy swirling, quite a bit of it, about Merida's new look. Of course, Pixar's film Brave was a 3D, computer-generated film, and in order to fit in with the style of the other Disney princesses, they've had to craft a 2D version of the character, and in doing so, they've made some, some would say significant changes to the way that Merida looks. They've lowered her dress to show her shoulders a little bit, given her some sparkles and some gold flare on the dress, lightened the color of it, added a whole ton of makeup to her face, and cleaned up her hair a little bit, etc., really making her fit in with how all the other princesses look, similar to what they did with Rapunzel, converting from that film, Tangled, to this 2D look as well, but even a little bit more drastic, because some have said this really goes against what Merida really represents, not wanting to fit into that same mold as all the other princesses, but really be her own sort of tomboyish character, but still a role model of sorts. There really, as I said, have been a lot of controversy swirling around this, to the point where just this weekend, creator of Merida and co-director of Brave, Brenda Chapman, voiced in an email to her local newspaper a lot of angry words for Disney and for Bob Iger and for the whole notion of this character being sort of transformed to fit that princess mold. We've had a heated discussion over on InsideTheMagic.net about it all, going on for ever since the announcement was made that Merida would become the 11th Disney princess, and that conversation continues. So if you want to chime in with your thoughts, definitely head on over to InsideTheMagic.net. Look for our first article on this topic, where it was announced that Merida was going to become a princess. Well, I mean, she was a princess in the film, but was going to become part of the Disney Princess merchandising line, and you can certainly read through the opinions in both directions and see where you stand on that matter. Moving away from princesses now, on over to the world of Star Wars Weekends, which kicks off this coming weekend on May 17th. And this week, Disney announced a new experience that kind of follows in the footsteps of a fun new experience that was available there last year, following the success of last year's Carbon Freeze Me experience, in which you could make a custom Han Solo in carbonite figure with your own face on it, which I, of course, did, and love my figure that I made this year. In addition to that returning, Disney's also now going to be using 3D printing to put fan faces onto stormtroopers, and of course, yes, the helmet is off. It's a figure of the stormtrooper standing there holding the helmet by his or her side, with a full recreated, full color face of anybody who takes part in this. It's about a 10-minute experience during Star Wars Weekends at Disney's Hollywood Studios. They'll be using high-resolution 3D face scanners, really the same thing that they did last year, but now adding a new product to it. Of course, the figurine will be shipped 4 to 6 weeks later. It's not printed right there on the spot. The Stormtrooper figurine's about 7 1/4 inches tall, including the base, which is 4 inches wide by 2.5 inches long. Costs about $100 plus shipping and sales tax. Ends up being about $120 in the end once you include shipping. And to book the experience, you can call 407-WDW-TECH. And as I said, it is available only during Star Wars Weekends this year. And naturally, I have booked it for myself, because how could I possibly pass up the opportunity to become a stormtrooper now after I was frozen in carbonite last year? So you can look forward to seeing what I look like as a stormtrooper sometime in the near future. Now, let's talk about limited time magic here a little bit. This coming week, really Disney isn't doing a whole lot. They've said a couple of things they're doing for Mother's Day weekend here, but it's kind of sort of things that they already do for Mother's Day weekend, and so it's not really part of limited time magic. However, out at Disneyland in California, they are offering a limited time annual pass holder magic event, so only for annual pass holders at Disneyland. Disney animator Eric Goldberg, who is the supervising animator of characters like Genie, Rabbit, Louis the Alligator, and more, is going to be teaching pass holders how to draw classic Disney characters at the Animation Academy at Disney California Adventure. This is taking place on Friday, May 17th at 3, 4, 5, and 6 p.m. It's going to last about 45 minutes, and you will need a wristband to get in there. Wristbands will be distributed first thing in the morning when the park opens at 8 a.m. at that location, the Animation Academy. So you're going to want to head over there as quickly as possible if you want to get into one of those 4 sessions as a Disneyland annual pass holder. And speaking of limited time magic, here's an interesting footnote to the Monstrous Summer All-Nighter that will be taking place on May 24th on both coasts. Out here at Walt Disney World, at least, cast members will be somewhat restricted from showing up in the parks. I don't know if I had mentioned this previously, but cast members cannot use their main entrance passes or company IDs to get into the park during that 24-hour day. They would have to use, or will have to use, one of their complimentary theme park tickets, a guest ticket, if you will, in order to get in. They really have to come in as a guest, and that's probably in response to last time around for the One More Disney Day, where a lot of cast members showed up. In fact, the park was probably, swarmed, if you will, with cast members in the late hours, showing up and being with their friends and all of that, which is a good atmosphere, but a little bit different this time around. Now, here's some rumor that I can report on. I've received word that, we talked recently about the new daytime parade that'll be coming next year to the Magic Kingdom, and apparently Disney is looking into installing a new sound system for that parade to make it sound even better, and in the process, I've heard, again, stressing rumor here, that fiber optic effects may be installed on the Main Street buildings to interact with maybe the parade, maybe castle shows, maybe both, maybe fireworks, could be any number of things that they would do with that. So anyway, again, I'll say rumor there, but wouldn't that be cool if the Main Street USA buildings could light up with fiber optics in the future? Now, we're not too far away from the grand opening of Antarctica, the new realm, over at SeaWorld Orlando. I'm really looking forward to getting inside there and taking a look around. They've got a new restaurant, new store, and of course the Empire of the Penguin attraction is the big sort of centerpiece of the whole thing. And as part of it, SeaWorld Orlando this week announced they've hired country singer Lauren Elena to sing their official Antarctica theme song, which they've actually posted online for a free download of a version of it, and then she'll also be there for the grand opening to sing it in person in the park in just a couple of weeks. It officially opens to the public on May 24th. I've already posted kind of a first look inside, a little bit of a glimpse inside Antarctica. You can see a little video and a whole bunch of photos that SeaWorld has released over on InsideTheMagic.net if you want to take an early look at what it's all about. Seems like the Empire of the Penguin attraction is going to be very bright and colorful inside, and of course it's going to be very cold as well. That's kind of the point. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all of that come together. Now, back out to Disneyland. We've been talking about for the last few weeks where Disneyland was fined for safety violations around Space Mountain, and it had closed for a while, and it has since reopened. Well, now, this week, state regulators decided to reduce the fine that they had assessed for Disneyland. It was over $200,000 worth of fines, and now they have brought it down to about $82,000. So I imagine Disney lawyers were all over that, trying to make it happen, make it a little bit less, show that Disneyland was really cooperating, and it seems to have worked, so a little bit less of mine. Still pretty expensive. Obviously, Disneyland wants to keep on top of safety as much as possible. Speaking of money matters, this week was the big financial results call for Q2 for the Walt Disney Company, and they're doing very, very well. A 32% increase in profit across the company. Revenue has increased 10% to about $10.5 billion, and the parks, Disney Parks and Resorts, has done extremely well over Q2 last year. Their operating income has risen 73%, with revenue gaining 14%. So tremendous time to be part of the Disney parks. The stock is doing really, really well as well, and so of course that leaves everybody wondering, well, Disney's making all this money off the parks. Hopefully they will be reinvesting it into the parks to create amazing new attractions in the future, and well, we'll see if that operating income that had a huge jump over last year will continue to be rolled forward or just turn into some sort of profit. Now, D23 Expo is coming up in a few months. It'll take place in August at the Anaheim Convention Center, August 9th through 11th. And this week, D23 revealed some details about their Walt Disney Archives Treasures of the Walt Disney Archives exhibit. That will be part of the expo. They're going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Mary Poppins, as well as ABC's television show Once Upon a Time, and sort of Oz in general, of course, including Oz the Great and Powerful, the recent film. They're going to have costumes on display at the exhibit from Mary Poppins, from Once Upon a Time, and from Oz the Great and Powerful. Mary and Bert's carousel horses will be there. The snow globe from the Feed the Bird sequence will be there. A carpet bag from Mary Poppins, and then from the movie Return to Oz will be the Tick-Tock puppet, and some more things as well that they're not revealing quite yet. So those are some of the things you can look forward to seeing at the D23 Expo this year. Now let's turn to the world of movies, where in its second weekend in the United States, Iron Man 3 continues to dominate. $72.5 million in ticket sales in the second weekend, taking first place not only in the U.S. but also in Canada. Meanwhile, second place went to The Great Gatsby, which this was its debut weekend, so it couldn't topple Iron Man 3. The Great Gatsby brought in about $51 million. And a big announcement this week from Walt Disney Animation Studios about an upcoming 2014 film. It's going to be their first Marvel-based animated film. It's going to be called Big Hero 6, and it's based off of a comic series, of course, a Marvel comic series that the group, the Big Hero 6, first appeared in September of 1998, so a long time in the making for anyone who's a fan of this comic series. Big Hero 6 is going to be set in the high-tech city of San Francisco, which, as you imagine, is a mashup of Tokyo and San Francisco. So you'll see a lot of Tokyo elements, a lot of bright lights, a lot of big buildings, a lot of Asian influence there, but also mixed with San Francisco elements like a lot of hills and trolley cars and all of that kind of thing. Disney has released a little bit of concept art showing what all of that is going to look like, and they've also described the plot of Big Hero 6 as follows. An action comedy adventure about brilliant robotics prodigy Hiro Hamada, who finds himself in the grips of a criminal plot that threatens to destroy the fast-paced high-tech city of San Francisco. With the help of his closest companion, a robot named Baymax Hero, joins forces with a reluctant team of first-time crime fighters on a mission to save their city. So there it is. That is Big Hero 6, which will be hitting theaters in 3D on November 7th of 2014, and I just kind of like saying San Francisco. It's kind of just fun to say. Other movie news, we talked about the casting and the announcement of Disney's upcoming live-action Cinderella film last week, that it was going to be directed by Sir Kenneth Branagh, also starring Cate Blanchett as the wicked stepmother and Lily James in the title role of Cinderella. But now it's been announced that Richard Madden of Game of Thrones has been cast as the prince for this Cinderella film. In home release news, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is making its way to Blu-ray, finally, and HD digital download. That's going to be coming out on August 27th of this year, with a lot of bonus features, including a Disney intermission, so you'll be able to pause it and see all kinds of Winnie the Pooh fun stuff, a Pooh play-along, 5 mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh, not many, but mini, like tiny, short films that'll be included. All those are new, along with some old inherited legacy, as they call them, features from previous releases of that. Back to the world of Marvel, which is becoming more and more used in the world of Disney. Disney seems to really be focusing on the popularity of this. A TV show has been picked up by ABC. It's going to be called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's going to star, somebody that, if you've seen The Avengers, didn't think he'd be around much. Agent Coulson will be the star of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., along with a group of younger agents, and a very tiny 7-second clip has already made its way online. They're also going to show something similar, maybe a little bit longer, I don't know, tonight during tonight's episode of Once Upon a Time. So anybody's a fan of the Avengers series, and particularly Agent Coulson, can look forward to that coming up on ABC. Let's go to the world of video games now, where it's been a little over a month since we talked about Disney and Lucasfilm shuttering LucasArts. Well, now a new multi-year exclusive licensing agreement has been signed for future Star Wars-based video games with Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts is going to be the publisher of it, and they'll be working with video game developers DICE, Visceral, and BioWare to actually create those Star Wars games, though no specific games have been announced just yet. And final bit of news this week, a new app has been released from Disney Interactive for iPhone and iPod Touch. The app is simply called Story, and Disney is kind of, it's a social media-ish type of an app in which you'll be able to use photography and video to create, well, your own story. It's kind of hard to explain. You just have to use it to really figure out. It's almost like creating a storybook, but out of a multimedia sort of presentation. And it is, of course, available from the App Store now. You're able to, once you create your story, you can embed it on websites, share it on social media. They call it effortless storytelling, in which it uses a photo library on your iPhone or iPod Touch to really pull it all together automatically based on sort of when and where things were captured, and then you can customize it with all kinds of different features throughout the story that you create. And that is it for news from around the world this week, other than going much further into the world of the Wizarding World, that is, of Harry Potter here in a minute, and some more fun stuff that I'm going to share as well. But before we wrap up this news segment, let me just mention one other thing, kind of a personal note here. For a number of years now, in my house, I've had a guest room actually, with the old furniture from Disney's Polynesian Resort. It came from the refurbishment when they went through and they, almost gutted all the rooms, essentially, and replaced all the furniture with newer stuff. So I have the older furniture. It looks great. I am no longer in need of this furniture. I'm going to do a little sort of renovations around the house, cleaning up and whatnot. So I'm looking to get rid of this furniture. If there's anyone in the Orlando area that wants the Polynesian furniture, I'm going to be posting some pictures over on Facebook and Twitter, etc., of what it all is and how much I want to sell it for. But if you're interested, stay on, keep an eye out for that, or you can send me an email, ricky@insidethemagic.net, and let me know. There's a bed frame and armoire and sort of a couchy thing and some chairs and tables, and it's really everything that you would have seen in the Polynesian rooms at Disney, and I just don't want it anymore. So there it is, and that'll do it for news from around the world this week. And this week's tip comes in from Kenny, who writes, I am writing on a tip that I don't know if you've covered or not. If you arrive at the Transportation and Ticket Center and notice long lines for the ferry boat and the monorail to the Magic Kingdom, try using the Resort Monorail. You have more stops, but you get on the monorail faster. Kenny, I probably have shared that tip maybe several times over the years, but I just love repeating it because it is such an important tip, because there really is no reason to wait for those very, very long lines in the morning or toward the end of the day, especially on the crowded days as we get closer and closer to summer here. It can be crazy around the monorails, and getting on that Resort Monorail, not only is it a good way to kind of get around faster, as you said, but it also, you might want to get off at one of those hotels and grab some dinner there, explore a little bit, go shopping. It's great to visit those hotels anyway, so it kind of gives you an extra excuse to do so. So everybody else, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. Now, as I said at the top of the show, the big surprising news this week was that Universal Orlando Resort has announced the details, or a pretty good amount of them, for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Part 2. That's going to be opening next year in 2014 at Universal Studios Florida. It's already under construction, has been for a number of months now, ever since Jaws closed, and really finally Universal has decided to kind of come clean and make it known what their plans are. A lot of it has leaked online. A lot of the details you've read, if you've been reading about it, are true, but they have confirmed that indeed this expansion is going to be the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Diagon Alley. It's going to feature a new ride, a new restaurant, and lots of shops based on the Harry Potter series, of course. Just one single piece of concept art has been released so far, offering a glimpse at what Diagon Alley will look like. But to give a quick summary here of the exciting details that'll be included here, the main centerpiece, the marquee ride, will be based on Gringotts Bank, of course, a prominent part of the Harry Potter series near the beginning and then again near the end. The concept art shows some pretty exciting things going on with the entrance to Gringotts Bank, including a fire-breathing dragon perched on the top of it, which apparently is going to be part of it. It's not just part of the illustration, it's actually going to be a part of the actual experience once you go in there, which is pretty exciting. Of course, there's also Diagon Alley being built itself. That whole area is going to feature a number of shops. Universal isn't quite saying what those shops are going to be just yet. They're not going into those details, but there's a huge list of possibilities. If you know the Harry Potter series very well, if you go to the Harry Potter wiki that's out there, you can read, or even our website, insidethemagic.net, of course, you can read all about what possibilities may be going in there. It seems likely that the Weasleys, Wizarding Wheezes, or whatever the heck their store is going to be a part of that. The restaurant that they've alluded to, likely going to be the Leaky Cauldron, though that hasn't been confirmed either. And probably Ollivanders will be in there. Who knows if it'll remain in the original Wizarding World or not, but it really belongs in Diagon Alley, so that will likely be part of it as well. But the list of possibilities just goes on and on from there. Out in front of the whole expansion is actually going to be a London waterfront area. You're not going to notice Diagon Alley from the main part of Universal Studios Florida because, well, it's the Wizarding World. It's tucked away. It's supposed to be hidden behind, London. So they're going to use a lot of the scenes, a lot of the sets, a lot of the settings that were part of the Harry Potter series and recreate a lot of those facades as this London waterfront area, and then you have to pass through there in order to move from the Muggle world into the Wizarding World. Of course, out front, the concept art also shows the night bus, famous from the series, parked out there. It seems likely that will be an actual part of it as well. And how are you going to get there? This is probably the most exciting part as far as I'm concerned. The Hogwarts Express train is no longer just going to be something parked out in front of Hogsmeade Village. It's going to be a real working train that's going to link the two theme parks, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida. That means Universal Orlando is getting a train, much like Disney has had for many years. Now they're getting their own train, except this one's going to be very special. There are going to be a lot of visual effects involved in creating this journey from Hogsmeade to the London area, to Diagon Alley, and back. Of course, in real life, it's going to pass through backstage areas, so they're not going to be able to have real windows on the thing, so instead there will be plenty of sort of virtual views, though the Universal isn't quite releasing the details of all of that just yet either. So to learn more about all of this, and in preparation for an article that I was writing about it for Fox News' travel section, I talked to Thierry, who is the senior vice president of Universal Creative. He's really one of the guys behind this whole Wizarding World. The original also worked on just about everything that's come out of Universal. It's been really exciting lately. Of course, Transformers is opening up next month. So I want to share here on the show just a little bit of what he had to say, starting with a pretty simple question about the whole expansion. Why expand the Wizarding World of Harry Potter?
Why not? It truly is something that we had to do because it kind of completes the world. You know, we brought obviously Hogsmeade Village and Hogwarts and all that part of the fiction to life back in 2010, but for us and listening to our guests and fans, you know, it was to complete the whole story of the Harry Potter fiction. It really had to be also Diagon Alley in London and the Hogwarts Express and Gringotts Bank, all the other elements that kind of were part of Harry Potter's life and his beginning into the world of being a wizard. And kind of cool that he started his journey there, in London, and going to Diagon Alley, getting his wand, and going on the Hogwarts Express, going to Gringotts Bank to get the money from his parents. all that stuff that was such a huge part of the stories, and we had to bring it to life. I mean, and the way we're bringing it to life is even cooler, because now we have London, Diagon Alley in our other parks. So you think about the two now being in two different places, which is kind of the way it was in the fiction, and you had to take the Hogwarts Express to get from one to the other. Now, how fantastic is that, to be able to yourself be able to get on the Hogwarts Express and go from London to Hogsmeade, or come back from there and live along the way, you know, what the journey that these children, these students lived as they went.
Absolutely. So what the original Wizarding World of Harry Potter, obviously a huge success. What has the success of that done for Universal Orlando to allow the big investments like Transformers obviously opening soon, and now this? Well,
obviously the power of the HP brand and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter speaks for itself. It has been, as you said, a huge success with our guests, and it's proven to us that there is a phenomenon out there that is bigger than we ever expected, and there's an appreciation for the stories and the details of what we created, you know, in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I mean, you think about the layering of details. We kind of set the bar to a level that hadn't been set before, and what we've learned from that is that the guests, our guests, and the fans have appreciated every single detail of what we put into it. So our desire now is to take that to a whole new level, not only by expanding the experience, but also by being able to add even more details, being London and Diagon Alley and Gringotts, being that it's a little bit more urban, and we've seen so much of it in the films. We saw a lot more Diagon Alley in the films than we did of Hogsmeade Village, actually. So it allows us to be authentic to what was presented to the viewers and to the stories, and to add a whole level of detail and experience that is going to blow everybody's mind, no doubt.
Now, I actually talked with Thierry for about 30 minutes about the whole expansion, and I've included a lot of what he shared, a lot of new details in that article that I mentioned over at foxnews.com/travel. And what I didn't include there, I then included over at InsideTheMagic.net in a closer look article with even more details about what is going into this new area for Universal Studios Florida. It's a very exciting expansion. I'll share just a few more sort of little tidbits here on the show. The artwork that they have released, it is kind of an overview of all of what they're planning on putting together there. That's to say, it shows the entirety of Diagon Alley in the area, but it is very artistic as well. It really is not necessarily designed to be accurate to the exact details of what are going on there. Thierry told me that there are, of course, many accurate details in there, but really the sizing and the spacing and all of the little minute, sort of magical elements that'll be part of it are not in there, that there's going to be many, many more surprises to come, even from what they have said. Talking a little bit more about the Hogwarts Express train, of course, everybody's wondering, well, does that mean you're going to need a ticket to get on it since you'll be going between the two parks? Will you need entrance to specifically the train? Will you need entrance to both parks? Universal has made one tiny mention in an email that went out to something called a park-to-park ticket, but they haven't really said much more than that. I think they're still working out those details. Seems highly, highly likely the whole point of this, expanding it into two separate parks, and not only what he said about sort of, mirroring that experience that Harry Potter took, going between these different worlds and having to take that Hogwarts Express to get to Hogwarts, which, simply that will be an amazing experience unto itself. You go to Universal Studios Florida first, and then you get on the train, and it literally takes you to another completely different place. It's not an illusion. It really actually is taking you there, and then you have arrived at Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. That's a pretty awesome experience for anyone who's a Harry Potter fan, or really just a theme park experience in general. Should be pretty cool. But that aside, of course, it is, it's two parks, and Universal's trying to capitalize on that as much as possible with the Harry Potter brand, and so I'm sure you're going to have to, pay for some sort of joint ticket for both parks, a park hopper, if you will, in order to access both sections. One more little note here. If there were any complaints about the original Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which has been hugely successful, everybody absolutely loves it, but everybody says, boy, are those stores tiny. And the reason Universal did that was to be accurate to how they looked in the films, how J.K. Rowling, creator of Harry Potter, author, has described them. So they really made Hogsmeade Village to be accurate to that, and they're going to do the same for Diagon Alley. They're not going to enlarge anything. They're not going to make it theme park size, if you will. Everything's going to be true to what is seen in the Harry Potter films. So if you watch those films, watch them walking around Diagon Alley, that is what it's going to look like in the park. So there it is for now. Of course, there's much, much more to come for that. A very exciting announcement, certainly butting up against what Disney's working on. Disney has announced some things that'll be opening next year at Walt Disney World, and now Universal's saying, hey, sure, you can go and open those things. We're going to open Potter Phase 2, which arguably has been the most exciting, most anticipated, most highly praised theme park edition in years, if not ever. It's been hugely, hugely successful for Universal, and it's certainly no doubt why they've decided to expand it, and the fact that they're opening it next year, they haven't narrowed it down, just sometime 2014 is pretty exciting. So to read more, see some more photos, more from Terry as well, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net. But I don't want to leave it just there. I can't leave Disney's exciting project sort of hanging when I'm talking all about Universal's exciting project. So before we get a little bit behind the scenes with what's coming up for Walt Disney World, I want to talk a little bit about TouringPlans.com, because this episode is once again sponsored by them. If you want to save some time by avoiding crowds and long lines on your Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or Universal Orlando vacation, TouringPlans.com is the solution for you. TouringPlans.com has everything that you need to plan your trip, including a crowd calendar for planning the best days to visit the parks and saving time while you are on vacation. There's a mobile wait time app with a personalized, computer-optimized touring plans, which basically says, hey, go to this ride at this time because it's going to have the least wait, etc., etc. Check out touringplans.com today at TouringPlans.com, and be sure to use discount code ITM to save 20% and start planning your stress-free vacation today. Now, the one detail I didn't go too much into there while talking about the Diagon Alley expansion of the Wizarding World is the Gringotts Bank experience. It is going to be a ride. It's going to be thrilling. It's going to be some sort of adventure. As you can imagine, if you've seen the Potter films, there was that journey down into the vault, very similar to a roller coaster, and it's very much going to mirror something like that, but Universal really isn't talking about exactly what that experience will be yet. But the ironic thing there that's fun to think about is that while Universal is working on that, Disney is working on crafting their Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. If you really think about it, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, it's a journey on a coaster-like sort of mine cars, very similar to that journey in Gringotts, even so much as there's going to be the seven dwarves and the other little goblin little people that will be part of Gringotts. So it's kind of the battle next year of the two rides that feature roller coasters with little people. But I didn't want to talk too much about the Wizarding World here without also talking about what Disney has in store with that Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, as well as the Princess Fairytale Hall that is, of course, replacing Snow White's Scary Adventures in Fantasyland, part of New Fantasyland. That is actually opening up later this year. A couple of weeks ago at the Monstrous Summer Press event, I had a chance to step behind the scenes, behind the construction wall, and look at the construction site for the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I didn't get to walk around and explore too much, but I did get to talk to some Imagineers who are working on the project, and I want to share that experience with you right now, kind of in a different way than I've shared construction tours here. This time I decided to fire up the binaural microphones, really take you there on the construction site with me. So you'll hear a little introduction from an Imagineer here. And then as we pass through the construction wall in Fantasyland and step out there, you can hear all the work going on. And then, of course, plenty of information about what you can expect from the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Princess Fairytale Hall as well, and some Q&A toward the end. So now let's hop on over to New Fantasyland. Be sure to wear your headphones during this for the best experience for a behind-the-scenes tour of Princess Fairytale Hall and the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Ralph Klein, I'm from Walt Disney Imagineering. I want to welcome you all to our project in the Magic Kingdom today. Got to take care of a few housekeeping details. When we go through this fence, you're going to be on a construction site. need you to be very careful. It's uneven pavement, there are trip hazards, things like that. Be careful where you step, where you stand. Please stay in the space that we've designated for you. That's for your own safety, okay? So help us out with that. We're going to be talking with 3 of our Imagineers working on these projects. You'll have an opportunity to hear from them and then ask them some questions as well. Okay? Is everybody ready? Let's go.
Hello. How are you? Good. How are you today? A little warm. I like that. Oh, thank you. Try to wear something themed.
That's great. Well, everybody gets in here. Okay. This, as I said, is our project site for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. We have 3 Imagineers who are going to tell you about the mine train and also Princess Fairytale Hall. This is Dave Minichello. He's our creative director working on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. This is Pam Rollins. She is our assistant producer for Princess Fairytale Hall. And then I have Chad Stachnik, who is our project manager. So they'll tell you a little bit. We have a few renderings. We'll hold those up, then we'll pass those around for you to take a look at, and then you can ask questions of each of them as we go. Okay? Yeah?
Hi, my name is Pam Rollins. I'm assistant producer for Walt Disney Imagineering and working on Princess Fairytale Hall. Princess Fairytale Hall is our immersive character greeting where you'll be able to see your favorite Disney princesses. You'll enter through a tournament-type structure into the castle-like features. Right beyond these walls on the left, when you walk out, you'll see the construction fence. You'll enter in through, you'll go past these stained glass windows, and each of the windows represents a scene from our Disney classic movies, like Jock and Gus would be in one of the images. Then you'll go through we would switch boards, go through our Royal Gallery. This is a very airy, very open, high-ceiling gallery with our framed princess portraits in it, large chandeliers, all very elegant. And you then will be received by your princess. You are a royal subject meeting your princess in one of the 2 rooms that we have available. You'll go, there's a very elegant finishes like the dark wood panelings, the wallpaper, very regal type settings with a little gothic motif on some of it, so you will really feel like you're in the castle, majestic world of a princess. That's it. It's 2013.
Pass those around. Okay, any questions for Pam about Princess Fairytale Hall?
We'll have Cinderella and Rapunzel, and then you'll have a friend. So you'll choose between Cindy and a friend and Rapunzel and a friend.
Will they know in advance who's going to be inside? Is there a way
They'll know Cinderella and they'll know Rapunzel, but the friend is what you'll know that day.
Question over here.
With so many planned places to meet the characters at the Magic Kingdom, will you be reducing the number of sort of impromptu walk-around characters?
I don't know. No, but right now these princesses are on Main Street. We're bringing them together into Fantasyland. I believe they're still working on with what they do with the other characters, but the princesses will all be together in this. But they'll also be a part of the parade too. They won't be changing.
Anything else? Okay, let's talk about Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Dave, you want to start?
All right. Yep. Thank you. Again, my name is Dave Minichello. I'm the creative director on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and Chad is the project manager of the mine train. Welcome, everybody. We're really excited about this attraction. As you know, with the Magic Kingdom, the new Fantasyland, of course, is the largest expansion in the 41-year history, and the mine train and Princess Fairytale Hall are the kind of the final portion of that initial concept, initial idea. And this is going to be an amazing attraction in the center of the land, the new Fantasyland, kinetically from all the way around this thing. There should be some amazing views. You can see in the rendering, the vehicles are based on, having a classic like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that people know and love. We start with that classic film, and then this is more a story about the dwarfs and the dwarfs mine. And the ride vehicle is a whole new type of vehicle that we've never done before. It is on the trains, they're pivoting vehicles, so the cars pivot back and forth as you round corners, and it should be really fun. It is a family attraction for all ages. We are, I'll pass that around. As I mentioned, you go. So as you enter this area, this is a part of the fantasy forest, and as you enter through the gateway, this area will be really wooded and very shady. It'd been nice today to have that shade. But as you notice, if you in front of the Enchanted Tales with Belle, it'll be similar, where you have a dirt walking path. You'll have trees everywhere. It'll be just a beautiful environment. Off in the back side here, about where the crane is over there, that's where Snow White's cottage will be located, and we're building a full-size cottage, Seven Dwarfs cottage, I'm sorry, in that area. So that'll be a beautiful element as you approach the attraction. You'll enter somewhere just over on the other side over here. You'll meander through the path in the trees, and then as you progress over in this area, we have a covered queue area that then leads you into the mine, and then you board your vehicle and head out on your adventure. We will have interactives in the queue that should be really fun. Again, we're trying to embed put our guests more and more immersed, more and more into our storytelling, and we are doing that in many ways. We have a lot of new technology and new animation in this, but as new things come out and new technologies are developed, we try to develop or integrate those into our stories. But really, as always, these classic stories are what really our attractions are all about, the storytelling, and the technologies are just to try to give more and more of a wow factor, or enhance the stories more and more as you experience the attraction. So we're looking at opening in 2014. We haven't set a particular date yet, because we're still looking at when, according to all our construction strategy and all that, but we are opening in 2014. Chad, would you like to add anything to that?
No, pretty much as you can see, we're it's an integration of this new mountain in Fantasyland to add to the other mountains in the Magic Kingdom, and the integration of the rock road, the ride, and as Dave said, all this area development is going to make for a topper to the Magic Kingdom Fantasyland expansion.
And you can see the perimeter fence as you walk around. We're right in the center of land, so some of the views from all the different points are going to be really exciting. Behind us up over here is our tallest lift. Lift is inside that building, which drops down and goes towards the Be Our Guest restaurant area. There's a beautiful waterfall on the other side. There's a trestle bridge that you go across. But really should just be a beautiful experience, beautiful ride, and I think our guests will really be thrilled. Questions?
Would there be animatronics inside the ride? Would they be more advanced than things we've already seen? Or
we're always looking at new ways to enhance our stories and add new effects and new animatronics, and we are developing some really new, exciting things that we have not done before for the show.
You said you don't have a height requirement yet, but it's family friendly. Are you talking like preschool age can enjoy it, or
preschool may be a little bit small, but we haven't determined the height exactly with the height restriction.
It's towards younger kids. It's not
Yeah, majority of the family. Yeah.
It's the ride system with the swinging. Is that new? That's something?
Yeah, it's a brand new system that we developed and patented just for this show, and this will be the first place in the world that we have it.
And what does it let you do as opposed to some of the other coasters that we have?
Well, if you have multi vehicles, and as you corner, it pivots independently. So it should be really fun as you look at some of the, I haven't seen many of the turns here, but as you bank around turns and things, it will pivot with the turn. So as cars enter a turn or leave a turn and exit a turn, like your vehicles will be really kind of doing this as you go around. So
the ride vehicle follows the track, and it'll act like a bucket.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
would you describe this as a roller coaster with dark ride elements or a dark ride with roller coaster elements?
That's a good question. I think it's I think our show. See, it's a mix of traditional show lighting and UV lighting, and so depending on the scene you go into, but. I guess it would be more a coaster with show dark ride. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's about an equal mix of what you experience in the show environment as opposed to exterior.
Going through the sort of the mine and any other scenes that maybe we haven't.
You go through a couple little vignettes. The mine scene definitely, and then there are a couple other scenes that we want to leave as surprises as you go through it.
Will we slow down during those moments?
Yes. Yeah, it's a variable. Yeah, definitely variable speed.
Okay.
And it goes both inside and outside.
Uh-huh.
It's
forward and backward, or can't say yet?
How about can't say yet?
Can't say yet.
That is a surprise. Lots of surprises.
Yeah.
Is there a Yeti in there?
I can tell you there's not a Yeti.
Not a Yeti, yes, definitely. But other surprises.
Right. Those who are lamenting the loss of the previous Snow White ride, should they be looking forward to better things here?
I think they'll enjoy this as well. We're always looking at new ways to tell the stories, and I think that this will give me a whole new perspective. And I think that that fans of that show will discover things about this show that are relate and similar. And yeah, I think they'll enjoy it.
So hopefully you had some fun there learning more about the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Princess Fairytale Hall. Princess Fairytale Hall opening up later this year. Disney hasn't said specifically when, but it should be much later this year. In time for Christmas is what I've heard. Possibly October, possibly November, but definitely near the end of the year. And then they seem to have narrowed down Seven Dwarfs Mine Train into spring of 2014, but that's still a pretty vague time frame there. So we'll certainly keep you updated as we get closer and closer and learn more about those fun surprises that are in store for some of those extra dark ride scenes that will be part of the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing all of that wrap up and really bring all of New Fantasyland together at the Magic Kingdom and seeing it all completed and what that whole experience is like. And now before we round out the show with some listener feedback, I want to mention Capturing Magic, the iPhone apps that are the ultimate tool for documenting and recording the magic of your Disney vacation, whether you're out here at Walt Disney World or out in California at Disneyland. Capturing Magic offers a helpful list of photo opportunities and memories to capture before, during, and after your trip. It's the perfect way to ensure that you don't miss a magical moment while you're in the parks. The app is going to remind you of photo opportunities that you selected when you're near those locations, and then whenever you take that picture, you can mark off who's in the photo and which camera you took it with, so you can organize everything very easily later. You can email yourself a list of everything. The Capturing Magic iPhone apps are available now in the iTunes App Store.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky. Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
All right, let's start things off with an email from Eric, who writes, a few weeks ago, you had a huge discussion on the Great Movie Ride, how it should be reworked or redone. I really like the concept of this and think it should be turned into a once-a-month segment or whenever news is slow. I would also love to point out a ride within Epcot that should be redone as Maelstrom within the Norway section of World Showcase. If you weren't aware, the ride hasn't received funding from the Norwegian government for the ride since 2002, and the reason why it was derailed during its design from a focus on Norse mythology to an overall Norway ride, complete with a 5-minute movie segment at the end. Personally, I feel like this would be a golden opportunity to introduce Marvel characters to the park, or after Islands of Adventure Agreement runs out with Universal, like converting it into a Thor ride, cutting the non-mythological parts out completely. Since the ride isn't funded anymore, I could see the ride being reskinned completely with either Loki or Malekith the Accursed, which could be an easier replacement for the current trolls, booting you out of the realm. What are your thoughts? Eric, I love the idea. When I started to read that, I was like, Marvel, how is that going to work in there? And then you said Thor, and of course, that yeah, there it is. Makes perfect sense to me. Yes, there is that sticky agreement with Universal that prevents Disney from including any of the Marvel characters in their Orlando parks. It's very unfortunate, but it's interesting there. World Showcase has always been sort of that home of the country-sponsored pavilions, very true to those cultures. So introducing something sort of fictional like that would be a change, especially from the Marvel Universe. But then you think about the boat ride over in Mexico, formerly El Rio del Tiempo, now the Grand Fiesta Tour with the Three Caballeros. So that really was Disney's opportunity to insert their own animated characters into there. So it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to then take Maelstrom and add Thor in there. I'm sure fans of Maelstrom and the classic Epcot experience would absolutely hate that. I love Maelstrom as it is. There's so many great moments from there, a lot of quotable moments, but I could see that happening sometime in the future. I'm sure Disney is actively figuring out how they can get that permission from Marvel, or rather from Universal, to include Marvel in their parks. I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon here in Orlando, but it's kind of fun to brainstorm about it. Next email's from Angelica, who writes, I'm a huge Disney fanatic and have been listening to your podcast for about 2 months now, and I am hooked. Spent this past week at Disney World with my family. 2 days out of the week, I went to the Magic Kingdom and noticed that quite a few of the rides were breaking down, not completely broken, but would stop for quite a few minutes. Seemed like if there were technical difficulties. It happened on Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, and Carousel of Progress, and I was so surprised that this happened on a few of my favorite rides and multiple times. I was pretty bummed out because, understandably, things can happen, but for it to happen so many times, I was wondering if staff is slacking a little bit. Also, do you have any information on if they are ever going to update Carousel of Progress? I love that ride, but it's such a classic, but the last part is so outdated. Angelica, good points there. As far as rides stopping, especially something like the Haunted Mansion, there's always a number of reasons that can happen when it's an omnimover system like that, and the vehicles are constantly going around, or even the boats of Pirates of the Caribbean. They do have to stop those from time to time for slower guests, accessibility issues, etc. Of course, then there's times when things just simply don't work, and they have to kind of bring in a quick fix. For so many of it to happen just sounds like bad luck in your day. It's not unusual that things that rides will stop for a minute or two, or maybe 10 seconds, or maybe a little bit longer, but certainly not a usual Disney experience to go through and have multiple rides stop on you throughout the day. So hard to say exactly what was going on then. As far as Carousel of Progress, I have not heard of anything regarding an update there. I agree, the last scene, the Christmas scene, could use a bit of an update. In fact, the whole attraction probably could use a bit of an update, but I don't know if that's going to be happening. There's a lot of rumors going on around about Carousel of Progress for many years now about potential attractions that would replace it, but there's a lot of fans of that classic experience. Of course, it was one of Walt Disney's own experiences back at Disneyland and even prior. I unfortunately don't have any information that. I would love to see an update as well. Next is an email from Nick from Mississippi. He writes, I have a few questions about my future Disneyland trip in July. I've been listening for about 6 years and have always loved your show. Appreciate you doing the show each and every week. My question is about eating at the Blue Bayou at New Orleans Square. I was looking around at the Disneyland website to find a restaurant that served the famous Monte Cristo sandwich, and I'm choosing between two restaurants, Cafe Orleans and the Blue Bayou. I've heard the atmosphere in the Blue Bayou is incredible, but the price to eat there is too high for me. Is eating at the Blue Bayou worth it, or should I eat at Cafe Orleans? Also, is 2 days enough to spend at both Disneyland and California Adventure? One more question, is Big Thunder Mountain going to be closed around late July, early August of this year? Nick, great questions there. Anytime we can bring up the Monte Cristo makes me excited and hungry at that. I used to swear by the Blue Bayou just because the experience is so phenomenal, especially if you sit by the water, watch the boats go by here, all the sounds of the bayou going on there in the New Orleans theme, watching the fireflies, and then, of course, enjoying your meal as well. And it's a great experience. It is a little pricier, but there's also more that you can enjoy there. In addition to the Monte Cristo, you can get their amazing gumbo, and there are, of course, other things on the menu that are very good as well. Lately, however, in my trips to Disneyland, I have been opting for Cafe Orleans instead. You can get in there a little bit easier. You don't necessarily need reservations, or if you can make reservations, usually, put your name in, wait a little while, or make it day of, or even the day before. It's pretty simple to get into Cafe Orleans. The Monte Cristo is just as good. You don't necessarily get get the same side dishes, but they have the pommes frites there, which are fantastic French fries that are just coated with yumminess. I'll leave it at that. So I've been preferring the Cafe Orleans. So my recommendation is simply ride Pirates of the Caribbean, look into the Blue Bayou, get a little taste of that experience there. And you'll kind of know what you're missing at that point. But then, you can go eat at the Cafe Orleans. It is a little bit less expensive, like you said. You still get that great Monte Cristo sandwich. As far as 2 days for Disneyland and California Adventure, it's tough now that California Adventure is so incredible. I could spend 2 days just there now between Cars Land and Buena Vista Street and World of Color and, Little Mermaid Ride and all of the wonderful things that are there. You'll just want to kind of hang out there and enjoy. Yes, you conceivably could do both parks in 2 days. You won't see everything for sure. It would take you a very long time to do that, more than probably even 3 days. But you could be happy. You could go home happy spending 1 day at each park, knowing that someday you can go back and try some more things as well. As far as Big Thunder Mountain, I seem to remember that it's not opening until later than what you said, July, August. I think it's most of the year is when it's going to be closed. It's a pretty major refurbishment that they are doing. Obviously anything's possible. They could finish faster, but I don't think it's opening until considerably later in the year. And let's see, we'll do just a little bit more listener feedback here before we finish up, and I will go over to the voicemail from Michael.
Hey, Ricky, this is longtime listener of the show, Michael, from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm not sure if you can hear the Haunted Mansion theme music in the background here. I'm in the car, but I just had a thought. I was listening to your last podcast, and with Haunted Mansion just specifically, I know that that's your favorite ride and mine too, and I was wondering, how many times have you ridden the attraction in a row? What's the most number of times you've ever ridden the Haunted Mansion back to back? I'd love to hear that on the show maybe one time and just see how many you've done it. Great show.
Thanks very much for that call. The answer may surprise you. I'm not necessarily one to do sort of those ride-a-thons. So as much as I love the Haunted Mansion, I have absolutely no idea how many times I've been on that ride in my life, more than I could count. I really don't have sort of a running count of most times in a row. I know I've done it, probably 3 or 4 times in a row at some point when there was no line or, had a good reason to do it. But I have not really done an extended journey on the Haunted Mansion for like a whole day or anything. I know people who have. They've spent literally opening to closing trying to cram as many mansion rides in as they possibly can, taking breaks only to eat and use the restroom, and that is it. So I have not done that. Maybe someday when I have a lot of free time. But for now, I'm happy just going to the park, riding it once, really taking it all in, and coming back another time to do the same. And with that, I will wrap up listener feedback for this week. Oh, 423, lots to talk about this week. Of course, if you want to see and hear more from Merida's coronation over at the Magic Kingdom as the 11th Disney princess, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net or visit our YouTube channel, where I've put up a lot of videos and some really great photos. Probably some of the best photos I've ever taken. I was really, really happy with the pictures I took from that coronation ceremony of all the princesses, of Gabby Douglas, and of course of Merida and her mom, Queen Eleanor, who was possibly the only time she will ever appear in the parks. Pretty exciting there. I had a great spot literally right in front of Cinderella Castle, front and center for the entire thing. So definitely head on over to see all of that. In addition, of course, the exciting news of the expansion of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Not the best kept secret, of course. We've kind of sort of known about it for about a year and a half now. But at least now it's official, and we can really look forward to that opening next year, along with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Magic Kingdom and Princess Fairytale Hall later this year. So certainly a lot of excitement going on around the theme parks and, of course, Antarctica just a couple of weeks from now in SeaWorld. So lots and lots to look forward to here coming up soon, and so very much more. I've actually got some really great interviews lined up very soon as well that I am excited to share, things that I think everybody is going to be highly, highly entertained and informed by. In the meantime, of course, I want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Also, check out TouringPlans.com to find the best approach to visiting the parks, crowd calendars, and an app that'll help you figure out what rides to go to and when to avoid those lines. And while you're doing that, you can capture it all and help organize all of your photos and magical memories with Capturing Magic, the iPhone apps. So be sure to look up TouringPlans.com and then the Capturing Magic apps in the iTunes store. And so that'll about do it for show 423. Of course, let me say another big happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there, and of course my own mom, who I called earlier and said happy Mother's Day too, but I'll say it again. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. And so that'll do it. Of course, InsideTheMagic.net is your source for Disney and theme park news between each episode of this show. And head over there to check it all out. That'll do it. Thanks for listening and for watching, and have a magical week. Goodbye.